Hey guys, Momola here, and in today's video I'm going to share with you a blueprint, a step-by-step blueprint of the 5 steps I would do if I was starting from scratch from day 0 as a beginner in the online website investing space and the niche website building industry. And I'm going to share with you over 10 years of experience in the industry, consolidated into one video. Let's get into today's video. Okay, so I've been growing and investing in websites since about 2010. And specifically been growing and ranking websites online via Google since around 2017. So I have over a decade of experience in the industry. I have my own small portfolio with a handful of sites that I personally own and grow with my team. And then I also have an agency with an expanded team where we help clients grow their own websites, and it's worth over $1 million in valuation with all the client sites. So between the two, I have a wide variety of knowledge, and this is exactly what I would do if I was starting from day 0. I had no website investing experience. I wanted to come into the industry and spend some money and see if it was working or not, but I lacked the exposure and the experience of what works and what doesn't. So here are the 5 things I would do right now if I was starting from scratch again. I hope you're going to find this beneficial. So number 1, initially, when I first started in this space, in this industry, I thought buying a website was the best and most fast track way to earn revenue and grow a business and flip it eventually. As things have changed, I've realized you have so much more control if you build from scratch. So this is what I'll do is step 1, I would build a website that I've researched well in terms of a niche relevancy and niche competition, and also keyword relevancy and keyword competition. And I'll build that website from scratch. Now that may go against what some other people advise, which is fine, but me personally, I would build from scratch. I would build in detail and I would go for quality over quantity. So here are the specifics. I'll build something from scratch, hosting and domain on those small costs, and I'll take the budget that I would have spent on buying a site to use for buying backlinks and content. Now, a small caveat to that is if a age domain came up that was very, very closely relevant to my starter site, then I would definitely purchase the age domain. I'll spend in the region of $3,000 to $5,000 on 1 or 2 age domains that are very, very relevant to my starter site. So let's say we're talking about gardening. If I'll pick up 1 to 2 age domains in the gardening space, and I would internal link those and redirect those directly to my starter site just to give it some boosts, probably after month 4 or month 5. Next, I wouldn't do any big link building campaigns until probably the end of year 1. That's because it's going to take at least a year for the site to gain traction, potentially for the age domains and the referring domains to gain traction if I go down that route. And if I'm being honest, the first 6 months are not much data anyhow. The next 6 months are going to have a bit more data, but I would decline to spend money at the initial outset for backlinks, because naturally your site's going to get bigger and better backlinks as the site gets older and more mature. So I wouldn't spend any money on backlinks in year 1. I would, on the flip hand, spend a ton of money and my budget on content. That's where I'd really spend the majority of my time and my effort and my expertise, because I really do believe if you have very good content over years and years, you will naturally attract backlinks in. And number 3, and this is something that I didn't really do when I was first starting out, probably because I didn't really know, and also because I didn't think it was as important, but I would go through at least 2 to 3 months of in-depth keyword research and niche research before I even start the blog. So I would plan the niche research months in advance. I would go through probably at least 50 or so competitors, and I would gauge between their domain rating, their keyword difficulty, their organic keywords and their top pages, what works for them and what doesn't. And I would build a mammoth keyword cluster and silo spreadsheet with all the different silos and keyword varieties and variations that I'm looking to go for, including the internal links to each article. Now, this is something that I never did previously. Number 1, because I thought it was a bit long-winded, and number 2, because strategically I didn't know how to. But now looking back, the best way to ensure that you have a successful website growth built from the outset is to have a really good plan. So my time and my effort would go into bulking out that plan, making sure that it's comprehensive, and making sure that it covers all of the factors and the keyword research and areas that I'm looking to target. So those are the first 3 steps. Build a site from scratch, potentially. Not do any link building straight away, spend more money on content, and also do fantastic keyword research and keyword clustering. And number 4 is going to be a bit of a surprise, because I didn't even think this was possible until I started to actually gain exposure in this industry and have lots of successful website exits. and really understand how flipping sites, growing organic sites from scratch works. So number 4 is I would go out and actively look for a joint venture partner. Now, of course, if you are new and you don't have much reputation or any track record behind you, it's going to be a bit tricky to get someone to joint venture. So you're going to have to probably think creatively around getting someone to invest in you. So probably friends, family members, etc. But if you're a little bit creative in the way that you approach that person and you give them a realistic risk to reward ratio, depending on their investment criteria, I'm sure you'll be able to fit someone's criteria somewhere down the line. Now, one of the most important parts of a joint venture partner is you get access to cash and investment that you can use to grow the site a lot faster than you would if you were just by yourself. And on top of that, they get a little bit of exposure in the industry. You get to obviously use the cash that they're using and split the equity. Now, joint venture partnerships in this space, I think, is not really highlighted. And I think if done correctly, it can be a win-win for both sides. Now, last but not least, I would have a very strict exit plan. And I say that with a smile on my face because I've had lots of different, multiple websites that I said I was going to exit, but I didn't, and things didn't go to plan. So if I was starting from scratch, I would do all of them 1 to 4. And then as things start to grow and mature in the correct way, I would have a very strict exit plan of, let's say, December year 3 or March year 4, wherever it's going to be. And I would stick to that plan meticulously. Now, this does 2 things. Number 1, it forces you to position the business as an asset that you're going to eventually sell, which makes you way more accountable for the things that you're doing. So you're gonna have to keep track of revenue, you're gonna have to keep track of costs, you're gonna have to keep track of all your software plugins, all those type of things. And it's also gonna keep your mind correctly honed into the fact that at some point this is gonna be sold. It's not your special project, it's just an asset that's gonna sell at some point. Now, one caveat to that is if you are 100% fixed at a specific point of selling at a specific point in the year, then I would recommend you do it a few months before court update, because as you may or may not know, when the court updates roll out, traffic can significantly spike up or spike down, which can affect your valuation and your exit strategy. So that's definitely a top tip to bear in mind. Now, here's a few sub points that I want to mention. They're not specifically in my growth strategy, but they're things that I would definitely recommend someone do because I kind of do them as well on the side. Number 1 is you're going to have to take advantage in some shape or form of AI content, whether that's for keyword research, for structuring content guidelines, or even writing articles themselves, depending on how low the competition is. Bear that in mind, maybe a very small percentage of your work should be done by AI. Number 2 is if I plan to have any commercial posts in my website and my blog, then I would definitely end up buying whatever product or system or software I'm trying to review. I wouldn't recommend just going down the route of going to Amazon and copying and pasting the description and trying to change the words up. I think those days have kind of gone now. So if you can't, at the very least, buy the product or item yourself, then you're probably going to have to find someone and get them to review it for you. Thirdly, I would definitely focus on list building. The phrase "the money's in the list" has been around for decades, and the truth is it still remains the same today. Even with everything that's advancing technology-wise, people still check their emails. So take advantage of that and build a list from day one. You can use really cool templates from OptinMonster and other integrated lead magnet tools. Fourthly, I would 100% recommend you integrate socials. Again, I didn't do this when I was first starting out because I really relied heavily, probably too heavily, on organic traffic. As time's moved on and I've seen the growth aspects and potential of social traffic, specifically LinkedIn, I would definitely integrate LinkedIn campaigns and probably pay someone a very small fee every month to build out a LinkedIn campaign and LinkedIn profile for me. Now, this is going to give you 2 advantages. Number 1 is you don't rely so heavily on organic traffic. So if it fluctuates, you still get traffic coming in from LinkedIn. And number 2 is you get to build out socials, which allows you and your brand to look more professional. Now, those are the main things that I would do if I was starting from scratch. One thing I would say is if you have a bit of an extra budget, then I would maybe recommend you try and dipping a toe into other forms of website investing or setting up an additional blog on the side, a really small one. And the only reason I say that is because if you have all of your eggs in one basket and something happens, you can obviously lose out. And also sometimes for me personally, I don't just like to check one Google Analytics and one revenue stream every single day because it can become quite monotonous and you don't really get to see the change. Sometimes it's good to just have a project and commit to 100%. And then as things are progressing, you can step away from it for a few days, find something else that's similar but not the same, and then come back to it and feel a lot more refreshed. Anyhow, that is my 5-step formula for what I'll do if I was starting out from the beginning with all the knowledge I know right now. I hope that's been really insightful for you, and I'll see you in the next video. Feel free to share and like and comment. Take care.